What is the difference between rebirth and reincarnation?
Rebirth, of course, I can understand. Reincarnation is another new word. It's not found anywhere. It's a new word. Reincarnation means rebirth. I can explain that. I will explain now. At the moment of death, the last thought is death consciousness. When the last thought arises and passes away, then the body is dead. The mind is not working anymore. In that dead body, there are no more arising of thought. So as soon as the death consciousness arises and passes away, then somewhere else, in a relevant place, birth consciousness takes place. Nothing goes from here to there, but that this death consciousness arises and passes away, and the next in succession arises and passes away in a new medium. It can be a human womb or a fertilized ovum, or it can be a divine place, it can be a satarapai or any such place. That is depending on this last death consciousness. So if the death consciousness is free from greed, hatred and ignorance, then the likelihood is it will get the birth consciousness will arise in a divine or human place. If the death consciousness is full of greed or hatred or ignorance, then it can get a subhuman rebirth. So the environment, there is enough environment for the birth consciousness to arise, so long as it is of the same frequency as the consciousness. Because death consciousness arises and passes away, and birth consciousness arises and passes away. Normally it arises in the same body, but now it doesn't arise in the dead body, but it arises in another medium. There is no time and distance, because it is faster than the speed of light. So it can be 1,000 million miles away in a heaven or Brahma world or somewhere else. It's just the same as if it is arising and passing away in the same body. So because the body is dead, the death consciousness and birth consciousness arise after death consciousness. Birth consciousness arises in a different medium. That's how we see rebirth. Reincarnation, maybe people think that there is a Atma or something that is permanent in the body, and that's according to the other religions. They think that permanent microcosm, the megacosm, is the creator God. Then the microcosm, there is something of the God that is permanent Atma. And that permanent Atma does not die, but it takes a new rebirth. So that's the Atma is a soul that belongs to the Creator. So I think reincarnation may mean that the soul goes to the next birth and it is permanent, and then it takes another body, but the soul remains permanent, and one day it becomes permanent with the maker. So that kind of thing does not apply to Buddhist thought. What we believe is nothing goes from the dead, from that person to the other, but the karmic generation, the vijnana, chitti vijnana, and Chutti Patisandhi. Vijnana, Patisandhi Vijnana arises in a different body. Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu. Okay, Bhikkhuni, there's a question has arisen. So how do we keep, if this death consciousness takes us to the next medium of existence, how do we keep the death consciousness good and clean without anger or lust creeping in?
Okay, to get the death consciousness free from great hatred and ignorance is a task for us for daily life. If you are continuously living in non-greed, non-hate and wisdom, the likelihood is that at the moment of death, death consciousness will be also non-greed, non-hate and wisdom. But if you are continuously having greed, hatred and ignorance towards all kinds of worldly things, then the death consciousness is bound to be full of greed, hatred and ignorance. One has something on. So that death consciousness is very weak and it has no strength to go beyond into the heavenly realms. So it just falls down and then it can be a human birth. It depends on the power of the death consciousness. Okay?
Sadhu, sadhu. Okay, Bhikkhuni. Then there was sort of a second part to the rebirth and reincarnation question. So whatever religious faith the person is of, is it the one and the same thing that happens to each and every person after death?
Yeah, whether you are whatever religion, the religions have no effect at all on the reality of existence. The reality is death consciousness and birth consciousness. That is what the Buddha speaks about. So it is not the way that any God or Brahma decides. It all happens due to causes and conditions and due to the amount of karmic energy has in the last thought. If it is positive, good karmic energy, then it gets a higher rebirth. If it is negative, then it gets a lower rebirth because it has no power. It has negative power. That has positive power. So that is why we insist that during the day, during the lifetime, you must do good things, get used to that habit. So, at the last moment, that will be your death consciousness. So, but until you are Sotapatti, one never knows whether you are getting a good rebirth or not. If you are Sotapatti, definitely you will never be born subhuman. So that's the advantage of following the Eightfold Path. You are sure to get a good rebirth if you can, because you are obviously going the path, and then you will get at least the first sainthood, and then you are sure of your next birth that is in a higher realm. But still, that's not the end. There also you die, and again you are born into different environments, depending on their karmic propensity. So, for the Arahant, he has no more tanha, and his death consciousness is having no karmic energy at all, so that he doesn't take a rebirth. His karmic energy is all due to tanha. If there is no tanha, there is no karma formation. This is something very important to realize. But if there is tanha, karma formation takes place. So Arahant is the only one who has given up tanha or attachment, greed, altogether desire for sensual pleasure and for anything. Bhava tanha, everything he has given up, then he has no more power in that death consciousness to give a birth consciousness. So he just dies out. That is the end of the samsaric journey for the Arahant. For the others, there could be a few more. For the other Sotapatti, Sakadagami, and Arab, that is why it's so important to get at least one or two of the sainthood, Sotapatti, Sakadagami, which is very easy to get for ordinary people. During the time of the Buddha, of course, they all reached up to arahanthood. So most of them, not all. So it is up to us to lead the life towards sainthood. That is to say, you have to stay with the Eightfold Path. So that will ensure you a good life now, and also good death consciousness at the end, and also a good rebirth. Okay?
The next question is, I am beginning to see the inbuilt suffering in everything. Even when people seem to be enjoying, I see the impending suffering. Sometimes it can be depressing. Please advise.
Why should you be depressed when you see the reality? That means you are seeing a reality. So you have to understand this kind of suffering is inbuilt in the system. It is not only for you, it is for every living being. So why should you be depressed? Actually, your suffering is nothing, maybe compared to other people's suffering. Only thing is you don't feel it. You only feel your suffering. So we have to understand the universality of suffering. It is a common factor for all living beings. Even the Brahma, they also have their pain in the sense that they have to give up their Brahma world sometime or other and die and get born again into the samsaric system. The divine people also, they finish their lifespan and they die, and then they are very unhappy to die and extremely unhappy, and then they also have pain and suffering, maybe of some dimension. But the lower beings, like human beings and subhuman beings, have suffering. The best is the human life, because we see this suffering and we can feel it in ourselves and in others. So we can contemplate on the truth of the first noble truth of the Buddha, that is suffering. That is nothing peculiar to you. It is a common practice. Ever you are born, you will be born into suffering. There will be death, pain, mental pain, physical pain, and finally death and sickness. and all that. So that is an absolute truth which we must see. If you don't want to see, you can just enjoy life and not think about any of those things. Then you can live like small children or animals, not knowing what is happening. Just enjoy, have a good time, and you will not take the right effort to get out of suffering. You will just forget it, or you will substitute it with something else, and then not understand the gravity of suffering. If you understand the gravity of suffering, your mental pain, physical pain, other people's suffering, then you don't get depressed. You feel, my God, how good we are. We are not suffering as much as others. So we can even be happy about it, not be depressed about it. So just because the whole world is suffering, there is nothing we can do about it. It is a karmic problem. So we leave it and we forget the problem, and we understand only that our pain and suffering and try to get out of that. That my mind is giving pain and suffering because of my attachment, of my desire. If there is no desire, there is no pain and suffering. The body is anyway giving pain and suffering with all kinds of sickness and old age and all kinds of things. The mind can be without suffering, because the mind can always understand that this suffering is due to greed, due to attachment. If you have no attachment, that momentarily you can give up that attachment and that suffering ends there. So, if you have attachment for your money, if you have greed for your car, then you must understand that nothing belongs. These things don't belong, they are due to causes and conditions. So I make use of it, but I am not the owner. I can lose it at any time. My children, my status, my life. So it is not a shock, because you are seeing the reality all the time, and you are very wise in understanding the nature of life and living. So it doesn't depress you. It makes you very intelligent, understanding other people's suffering, understanding your suffering. That is the first noble truth, which is universal, nothing peculiar to you or to others. Some have more suffering, some have less suffering. So that is not our concern as such, but we can always have loving kindness towards our compassion for those who are suffering, and you can help them in whatever way. That means that you are having non-greed, non-hate and wisdom. So you can cultivate non-hate, non-greed and wisdom by seeing others suffering and being compassionate towards them. So that's a positive way of looking at suffering. Negative way will be getting depressed, so that there is no depression at all. You feel happy. I am not having such suffering as these people. So I must have done some good karma to deserve all the luxuries I have got. So it doesn't depress you at all when you think of the others who are suffering much more. So there is no case of depression, but it's a case of wisdom and seeing the reality of life and giving up greed, hatred and ignorance for life, for good things. So little by little, you see the suffering of others and you help them out as and when necessary or possible. Or you see your own suffering and understand this is a universal problem. If I am born again I will be suffering just as well. If I am born, I have been born again and again and again million, trillion times that we don't understand. But the Arahant and those who had supernormal power, they could understand their previous lives, and they said, my goodness, this is infinite. Samsara is infinite, they are beginningless, you can't think about it. And we have been born again and again, and as soon as we die again, we will be born into suffering. There is no way you can stop that unless you become a Sotapatti or an Arahant. That's the only way you can give up suffering. That is an individual effort. It is not a mass movement. You can't expect everybody to do it, but some may be able to do it. So it is your personal, your individual problem to get out of the suffering that you are having for your me, I, and mine. My mind, my body. That is the thing that is giving you suffering. Okay?
Please explain how our Moha makes us believe that all our six senses can be satisfied in a future date, but we eventually die off unsatisfied, yet crave for a better rebirth.
So if you crave for a better rebirth, that is called bhava tanha. That means you are asking for another birth which will also give you pain and suffering. We don't know even the better rebirth is permanent. It's not permanent. That also finishes when the lifespan is over, you die there. And there is no guarantee that even if you wish for a better rebirth, that you will get it, because this dying thought is also important. So the Buddha says the better thing is not for you to believe in another rebirth that will be better or something like that, or worse, only keep going with the life on the eightfold path so that you make good karma and you will get what you deserve. But if you wish for a better rebirth, that means you are asking for pain and suffering. Because even the rebirth, we don't know what it is going to be. It could be worse than what you have already. So it could be more pain and suffering. So the best thing is not to worry about future rebirth, that is bhavatanha, that is to say you are having greed for a better rebirth, that is also a kind of tanha. And then vibhavatanha is that you think that once you die everything is over. So they are all wrong notions called saksata ditti and what is the other one? And I forget the name. So bhavatanha becomes saksata ditti, that is asking for eternal pleasure. That never happens. So it's only a foolish, ignorant decision to think you will get a better rebirth and do things. Of course you will get it, but it is not going to be a perfect thing. That also will last for a while and you die, and again, if you don't make good karma, you will get a subhuman rebirth. Because only in the human world that we can do this kind of good karma. Because in the divine world you can't. There's too much luxury. You have no way of making good karma or even bad karma. Bad karma, yes, because there is tanha. But here in the human world, the mind is so, can be developed to such an extent to see the reality. That is why the human life is so important. The divine life, that's why Buddhas are born into the human system. Buddha is never born into the divine world, because the divine people cannot understand what suffering is. And the subhuman world can never understand what happiness is, because they are having so much unhappiness in the hell world. So the best situation to develop the mind is a human rebirth, where you can do so much good for yourself and for others by getting rid of all the defilements in the mind. So they are the defilements that keep on giving you a subhuman rebirth. Greed, hate, ignorance, fear, doubt, pride, conceit, me, I and mine. All these things are negative thinking, whereas Saddha, Sati, Vidya, Samadhi, Panya, all those higher aspects of training must be understood and followed so that you give up the defilements here and now, at least temporarily, until finally you give them up altogether. So Samatha Vipassana is mostly Samatha is to suppress defilements from moment to moment, and Vipassana is to eradicate defilements as and when they arise. So both methods are very important for us to go on the path so that finally you get rid of all defilements. I think I have given you that little example. Supposing your lawn is full of weeds. There are two ways you can keep down the weeds. One is to trim the lawn and the weeds can't come up, but the roots are there. The other one is to remove the weeds one by one as soon as you see it, and one fine day your lawn will be free from all weeds. Just like that. These two methods are important. One is like Metta Bhavana, that is Cheto Vimukti, where you suppress defilements. You don't speak, you don't act with a polluted mind. So that is Metta, is suppression, and Vipassana is seeing the defilements and getting rid of them and understanding the gravity of these defilements. These defilements give you pain and suffering now and in the future. So all negative thinking can be got rid of by seeing it or by suppressing it. So that is Samatha Vipassana. And also having continuous thoughts like Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, so that you go out of the way to help people, as far as things are possible, you do your duties, you are keeping precepts. That kind of thing is the culture that you have to develop so that you are sure to get one or two sainthoods in this life. That is the only guarantee. There is no sainthood, then nobody can say where you will be born. Even if you think that you will get all the good things, still they will get. Even if you get it, it will come to an end. At the end of the life, the lifespan is over and you die there, and having not done any more good, you will go down below. Because in the divine world, even if you enjoy and have a good time, there is no way you can make good karma. It's only in the human world that good karma can be made by meditation, by practice, by application. That is not possible in the subhuman or the superhuman life. That's why the Buddhas are born into the human world. The human mind can be developed just for reason, whereas our minds are not even a fraction developed compared to the height of development in the Buddha and the Arahants. They have developed the mind to such an extent that they have supernormal powers also, and which none of the others can have. So, human life is so important to make good karma and also to get rid of samsaric suffering. Okay?
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhikkhuni. Bhikkhuni, can you please explain what exactly is meant by Moha?
Moha is to think that Kama Tanna, Bhava Tanna, Vibhava Tanna, all these things are Moha. That is, you think that Tanna is the biggest Moha we have. Me, I, and mine, myself, my Moha. The opposite of that is wisdom. So if you have wisdom, you think nothing belongs. When you know how to get rid of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Moha means you are looking for good things now, and then you are doing good things, hoping that you'll get a better rebirth, and that you can enjoy forever and ever. None of it is the actual truth. So, if you have Moha, you think you will get a better rebirth. If you have Moha, you will get a better time. If you earn money enough, then you can have enough luxuries. Then all that is Moha, because how much old age and suffering arises, you don't know. Death also. So, to imagine that you will get a better time is the way that people believe the conventional world. But the Buddha said, don't think of the future has not yet come. The Buddha said, don't think of the past is dead and gone. So, unborn future and dead past are to be forgotten, but live your life in the present, a wholesome good life. That is going to be your past. That present good life will be your future. So don't worry about the future or the past, but do what is necessary. Be wholesome and good, and keep your precepts. Do your good. Do good things. Then follow the Eightfold Path. Those are to be done in the present moment, not in the past or in the future. So the Buddha stressed mindfulness of the present. Mindfulness is not of the past or future. Mindfulness is only in the present. What am I thinking? What am I speaking? What am I doing? Once you see that, when you understand that my thinking is wrong, my speech is wrong, my action is wrong, that is wisdom. If you don't know, that is Moha. My thinking is right, my speech is right, my action is right, whereas it is unwholesome. So, understanding what is kusala and akusala is really what is akusala, and kusala is wisdom. That is to say, greed, hatred, and ignorance is akusala, non-greed, non-hate, and wisdom is kusala. So understanding these two is really wisdom. If you don't understand, then you think both are the same. That is Moha. So you think no harm in doing anything wrong, no harm. So you don't keep strictly with the kusala, then you make some mistakes and that becomes your habit. And then you lead a life of Moha. So if you have wisdom, you will think, I will never break the precepts, I will never do anything to hurt anybody, I will have a lot of metta, karuna, mudita, upeksha. And then you are leading towards a better life. That is wisdom. Moha is to think, what I think is right, what I speak is right, what I do is right. Whereas it may be wrong because it may be giving pain and suffering to you and to others. So we have to be very careful about whether we have Moha or wisdom. If you have wisdom, you will be doing only the good and wholesome. If you have Moha, you will not do the good and you will be ignorant. Moha is ignorance, wisdom is knowing the way with the karmic and all kinds of the the pain and suffering and first noble truth, and the cause for the pain and suffering is tanha. If you understand that much, you have wisdom. If you understand that it is the tanha I have for me, I and mine, my pride, my conceit, my selfishness, my ego, then that kind of thing, if you understand, you will refrain from doing it. If you don't understand, you will uphold it, and then you will make bad karma. So that is, Moha is a very dangerous thing compared to wisdom. Wisdom, you steer clear of all trouble. Moha, you walk into trouble. Okay.
Contemplating on the 10 factors of the Girimananda Sutta, 7 Bojjhanga, etc., is it a type of meditation, and should we do it before in and out breath meditation?
Well, there are so many things in the Girimananda Sutra, the Dasa Sanya, they can all be practiced, but it's not very necessary. That is to say, Sati, Bojjhanga, in the Girimananda Sutra, there's the Dasa Sanya, Anicca Sanya, contemplation of impermanence, Anatta Sanya, contemplation of non-self, Asubha Sanya. So those things give you wisdom. When you have contemplate on impermanence, it develops wisdom. When you contemplate on anatta, the non-self nature, that everything happens due to causes and conditions, not due to me, you give up your selfhood, and then it is non-self. That gives you wisdom. Asubha, concentration, that is of the 32 impurities, that is necessary if you are inclined, sexually inclined, and it is a problem. Otherwise, you don't have to do the impurities. You can just know it and understand that what it appears to be is not what it is. So, but that is not for lay people as much as for maybe recluses. So, Asubha only must be practiced when you are having too much lust and too much attachment to others. Then Adinava is seeing the misery of the body, see the pain and suffering, the sickness of the body. Then the contemplation on Pahana is overcoming and abandoning all kinds of defilements. So that can be a regular thing in daily living. It's not just a meditation, but any time of the day you can see your defilements, you can see your pride, you can see your anger, so you can practice it, see it and get rid of it, overcoming. That is Pahana Sanya. Then Viraga Sanya is fading away, detachment, distraction, in the sense that you understand that this life is not for clinging and longing, but that life is for giving up defilements and going towards ending of suffering, that the life is meant for getting for practicing the Eightfold Path and getting statehood. So that is the Pahana, overcoming, abandoning, fading away of all attachments. Then it depends on how strong you are to give up. Then Nirodha Sanya is that is when you understand the reality of it through experience, and you become Maggapala, that is the extension in 4 stages. Then Sabbhagi Anabhirata Sanya is contemplation on the disinterestedness, giving up tenacious clinging, biases, inclinations of all desire, anger, all of those. Sabbaloke anabhirata sanya, that is, of all the things that are happening, the world of what do you call convention. Conventional world has tenacious clinging, biases, inclinations. So to give up that kind of thing. So Sabba Sankara Anitya Sanya is contemplating or impermanence of all karmic formations. So all these things are important. If ever you can and grasp it, and whatever moment you can use it. Anapanasati is also a contemplation on breath. So that is for seated meditation. Other things you can contemplate as and when necessary. You don't have to be seated. If you can, yes, it is so. Especially Anitya Sanya, impermanence of the 5 aggregates, very important. That you don't have to be seated, but you can also be seated and do the 5 aggregates. How Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, how they arise. Every moment they arise and they pass away. That is the impermanence of the 5 aggregates. So Girimananda Sutta gives the Dasasanya, which gives you so much intelligence and wisdom that you really understand the way of life, what life is about. And of course, Bojjhanga is one step higher, where you practice sati, mindfulness, according to the Satipatthana. And then you Dhamma-vichaya, or investigate the law. That is to say, you understand that, say you are meditating, and a thought arises. Then you can take that thought, say maybe you are thinking of your daughter. Then you know that the daughter it's only a mental image. It's only a thought. But you have got so attached. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, all 5 arise. Because of that Rupa, or that image of your daughter, there is Vedana, that is happy or unhappy. There is Sanya, you recognize as your daughter. There is Sankara, you have attachment or anger. Then there is Sankara, means karma formation. Then Vijnana is that it is a mental image, Mano Vijnana. So just even a thought can arise all 5 aggregates in the mind. They arise and pass away constantly. But aggregate is a thing which you are attached. Then it becomes Rupa. It becomes a clinging and longing, like Pancha Upadana Skandha. Then it becomes not only Tanna but Upadana. Upadana is something stronger than Tanna. Tanna, it arises and passes away, but Upadana means clinging and longing that you can't give up. So that image of your daughter has given you clinging and longing for the image, for the Rupa, for the Vedana, that's the feeling, and Sanya, the recognition, then Sankara, the karmic aspect, and Vijnana, it is only a thought, it's Mano Vijnana. So if you are intelligent, you can always understand the reality of your thinking and get rid of it. Then understand that these things happen always in the mind. How do five aggregates arise and pass away is something very important for you to understand. So once you understand, then there will be no clinging and longing for thoughts that arise. Just mere thoughts that come and go, mere thoughts, but here you are making karma just by thinking. There is nothing real about it. It's only an image that has arisen in the mind, and that image by memory, and then you are making karma for that image. So when you see the actual circumstance, you understand that memory can also start up a lot of karmic energy, good or bad. Okay? So, Dhamma Vichaya is that investigation of the mind. Then Virya is we have to have effort and energy to practice this, otherwise you can't keep mindfulness. So Priti is when you are seated meditation, you get all kinds of tranquility, rapture, then samadhi, concentration, and upekka, that is for seated meditation. So if you can do this bojjhanga, that's a higher limit than the dasasanya. So they are all to be practiced and where necessary, but when you are meditating, they already arise without even knowing. So they can be practiced in daily living as far as such things are possible. Okay, and it is for your own wisdom and all for the purification of the mind. Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhikkhuni.